What's up, folks? This is Tony Brewer and Aaron Dodson, and we are being joined today by a special guest, Todd Clippard. And look, with the magic of Restream, here he is. It's good to see you, Todd. This is a podcast where we discuss timely issues through the timelessness of God's Word. And this is a long-awaited viewer or listener request. Question. There we go. Question. What people ask when they want to know the answers. So anyway, I sent this off to Todd. I don't know. I guess it's been about a month ago. And he copied and pasted in his email, said he wanted to chew on it some. I wanted to chew on it some. I've got an article written. I think, folks, that I have come up with the definitive answer on what is the proper church size. And just to be transparent, if you don't agree with my answer, well, I don't know if we can be in heaven together.
Oh, man.
Because I'm right. Because I've got the definitive answer. Todd, what's wrong? You look incredulous.
I'm just sitting.
He's chewing on it.
You're waiting on the definitive answer?
And I'm waiting.
I got you.
I'm hoping your answer's right, because I kind of wanted to be in heaven together.
Ain't that the truth?
And I hope I don't disagree.
So, all jokes aside, I think that the proper size of a congregation is when a congregation size outgrows the leadership's ability to put to work those who have the ability and desire to work. The congregation's gotten too big. And either we need to revamp and strengthen the leadership to be commensurate with the size of the congregation, or maybe it's time to look at demographics and have a church plant and have a subset of that congregation go 15, 20 miles away and have a church plant. Now, is that the definitive answer? Probably not. I think it's a good principle, probably something good to discuss, because when I was thinking about this, I conceptualized it as a problem that's behind a perfect sphere, and there was no voids or no crevices or cracks into which I could insert some proposition or principle against which to pry. So I just had to kind of think of something, and that's what I come up with. But then I've got a whole list of other stuff. But what do y'all think, just as we get started?
You would think if we're doing God's will and we have, I don't know, thinking about the word majority used in 2 Corinthians, the punishment was sufficient given by the majority or something like that, when they disciplined that fella.
Yep.
I'd like to think that if the majority of the brethren were doing what they need to do, then the congregation would be the size that, quote unquote, God wants it to be. You plant the seed, it gives the increase, and you teach the lost, you try to bring back erring members, and you withdraw when absolutely necessary after you've warned and begged and pleaded and followed Jesus' instructions. Well, it should be the size God wants it to be. I'm just thinking, though, a lot of times the congregation is not the size God wants it to be because we're not doing all those things.
Yeah.
We don't have the majority doing what they need to do. We don't have, outward reach, inward maintenance, all those kinds of things.
That's it. Good to see everybody, incidentally. Reginald Perry, Diana Harden, Equipping Expositors Ministry is John Exum. And we have Facebook user says, I will give you the correct answer soon. And John, of course, Quip, he always gives us good dad jokes in the comment section. Who else have I missed? Terry Crooks, Connie Barden. Good to see y'all.
Rusty and Tammy, one point.
Do what?
Rusty and Tammy Kirby were in.
Okay, cool. Good to see them. I'm glad they're here. And then, Rusty Kirby, good to see you. All right. Hopefully we've got everybody. And if we've missed you, it's not because we're mean. It's just because we're mistaken. We miss notifications all the time. Todd, you've been chewing on this. What are some of the thoughts that you've come up with?
I'm not a fan of big churches. and this, of course, this is going to go letter that you sent, or the letter that was sent to you that you forwarded on to me. Um, um, but big is a relative term. You know, in my part of Alabama, if a church has got 200 members, it's a big church. Whereas in other locations, it might not be considered a big church. I think just from a practical perspective, as as one who serves as an elder, looking at the example of Jesus, he said, "I know my sheep, and I'm known by my sheep." And if a congregation gets to the point that the elders don't know all the sheep, there's a problem, size wise, or could just be a problem with eldership.
Yeah.
And you could have 150 people and the elders not know everybody. If so, it doesn't really fall necessarily to size, but I've just never felt like I could be at home in a big church, 6, 7, 800 people. Look, we've got at Burleson, we've probably got about 9. If you counted every man, woman, and child that you might expect to see in any given Sunday, that includes non-Christian spouses and all children. We've got about 90 or so people on our roll, or that we're trying to watch out for in some way. We've got 4 elders, man, and 4 elders with 90 people is, man, that's just about more than you can say grace over if you're doing it right. And I just don't see how a church with 3 times as many elders can oversee a congregation with 10 times as many members. How does that work?
There are congregations that are smaller numerically than that have that many elders or less elders, 2 and 3 over 100, 150,
listen,
200.
I grew up in a church that had 3 elders, and there was one. I know one year we averaged like 440 people every Sunday with 3 elders.
Yeah. Well, I think the model, the biblical model, is kind of cast aside sometimes for the worldly model of the elders being simply a board of directors that decides how money and where money is spent. And it's ran okay. So I'm going to say something. The church, when I say profitable, I mean money, and I mean the church has to be wise and a good steward of the blessings that God gives it. And one of those blessings is money. I think if a church is out here being nonchalant and not purposeful and being a poor steward of the money, then that's an issue. But I think so often we equate the bottom line in the checking account at the end of the year with success for that year, as far as in the church.
I tell you, that's not true here.
Well, I guarantee it. I'm speaking very generally, and I know that at Riverview we don't view that. I know, Todd, at Burleson that's not that way, and from what I know of Washington Avenue, it's not that way there. So I mean, I'm just saying that there may be, if there is a congregation that we speak of that's like 150, 200 members, but only has 2 elders, and the elders are not known, they're not actual shepherding the flock, they're just businessmen who manage money, then I think some priorities are swapped upside down.
And that wouldn't really have anything to do with congregation size as it would be, residing in the eldership. Man, there's just so many factors that have to be considered with regard to congregation size. I mean, if you think about, all right, let's just say, I know a congregation, very familiar with congregation in North Texas, and they need to build an auditorium because the area where they are is just exploding.
Yeah.
They need to build an auditorium. and they're looking at it, they're a congregation of 100 people, they're looking at $1 million and a half dollars just to build a basic structure. And if you want to start talking about planting churches in urban areas, or outside of major metropolitan areas, like you're going to try to plant a church outside of Birmingham or Memphis or Nashville.
Yeah.
And you're talking about just to have a basic structure in which to meet. You're talking $6 to $10 million.
Yes. Quickly. You're talking 6 to 10 million.
You and I, because we're tied with you with your work, and we've talked about the situation there, and the finance, just almost insurmountable, the financial challenge. I remember not too long ago the church at Pearl Harbor needed a building, and it was a small church, and man, they needed millions of dollars to. And I think if I remember correctly, I think the brethren stepped up and helped those brethren. And I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
And you just can't depend on the brotherhood to provide you a place to meet. And I know a place to meet's not a necessity, but it's helpful.
Well, all the time with my Cogitations podcast, people that have listened to me for any length of time, they know that my famous saying is, there are should and should nots, then there is and is nots. It's very easy to talk about should and should nots, but if we don't ever deal with the is and is nots, we'll never get down to a solution of the problem, nor even identifying the problem. It should not be the case that a place to meet is that much important to the Lord's church. But the problem is, let's deal with reality. In this day and age, if you do not have a quote unquote church building, you in the community have lost a certain amount of credibility, and people are not going to come to a location where they are uncomfortable. Now, I say that, and then there are people outside of the United States in third world countries. They're like, well, we meet when there's 12 inches of water on the floor in a monsoon, and we set on bricks. That's great. That should be the case. But in the United States of America, in Western culture, yeah. If you don't have a building where people can come and worship, and it's comfortable, it's aesthetically pleasing, you're creating a barrier to the work of the Lord if you don't have that, or if you willingly don't have that. Now, if you don't have that and you can't get it, then you just still need to do the work of the Lord and trust Him to provide.
And it can be different in different parts, even of this country. The Southeast generally is quite a bit different than the Northeast or North Central or Northwest or Southwest or urban area or little country town. There may be little old country town down there as smaller than Hamilton that, most of the members, they good to go. Tornado got hit our building got hit with a tornado. That's all right. We got a barn. We got some fans. Yeah. And I ain't making fun of them. I'm talking about for real. There's members that are like, we'll just go with the barn. We're on. And then probably people in that community, they can reach, they can baptize. They'll just assemble in the barn. Like you can do different things.
Right.
But then there's other areas that just wouldn't
work.
Generally the more urban areas that probably wouldn't go very well because of culture. But
I preached a couple times for the church at Reading, which is outside of London, and that church meets in a public library, and they only have that library for about 2 hours on Sunday morning. They don't have Sunday night service, they don't have Wednesday night service. They've got a public library for a specific amount of time, and so there are and in my prep for today, I got to thinking about that and some of the things that the Bible really has to say about churches meeting. And I don't know if pushback is the right word, but the idea of losing credibility if you don't have a building.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure I buy into that in some ways, because that's what we kept being sold by the Ghanaian brethren for years and years. We don't have a building. We can't grow if we don't have a building. People. And it's like we weren't willing to go $100,000 in debt to build them a building when they could meet, for free, in a public school building, and yet, we'll turn around and not hold ourselves to the same standard over here.
Yeah.
You could meet, you can meet the library. There are public spaces that are available for, for people to, meet. If the church outgrows it, then they have decisions to make. But it's a difficult question to think about. I don't know. I guess I spent too much time in Africa to.
Yeah. Well, let me wrinkle your brain in this way. So I'm going to stand behind what I said about you lose a certain amount of credibility. But what I mean by that, let me flesh that out some more. Like you said, if you've got a congregation, let's say you started meeting in a house, and you're meeting with your core group, the people you're made friends with, you study the Bible with, and now you meeting with, let's say you got 20 people in your house, you can't hold them. Well, you're capped. Your congregation, and I say you're like you own it, the congregation meeting in your house is the growth of that congregation is capped to what that space can hold. So you've got a decision to make. So then now let's go to the library. So we meet in the library. Now that can actually be a boon to your credit. Like that but you still have a place. Yeah. You still have like even in the first century when the Christians met on the first day of the week in the same synagogues that the Jews did the Saturday meeting in. I remember Tom Holland talking about doing a church plant somewhere in the Northwest, and he actually went to a Seventh-day Adventist group and said, look, you use your building on Saturday, let us use it on Sunday. And of course, that flew like a lead balloon. But that's what I mean. I'm not saying that you'll lose credibility if you don't have a building with a steeple and a chandelier and pews and stuff like that. I mean, you'll lose credibility if you don't have, like, if you've got a basement that holds 20 and your congregation is 18, it's going to be hard for you to get above that amount of people converted.
Again, not should and should not, but is and is not. Like, should it be that way? No. People should sit on the side of the bank when the ocean tsunami's coming on them and they're singing the praises of God. But if we could move 5 miles inward where the tsunami wouldn't hit, more people would come to hear the word, kind of thing. Yeah. That may be a terrible illustration.
Well, there's going to be some core people that would meet on the surface of the sun.
Yeah.
And risk being burned. That's not the people we're talking about. Right. We're talking about the people on the fringe, the people that aren't 100% bought in, the people that we're trying to nurture and get them bought in. And I like what some of our commenters have said. I've got one. I think this is Ted Knight. I think he identified himself earlier. Hold on a second. Let me get this. I have worked with small congregation and large ones. The effectiveness of the church is dependent upon the elders' use of the deacons, teachers, and others to help them in tending the flock. I co-sign that 100%. If the elders just consider themselves to be a board of directors, the comment cuts short, but I can finish the ellipsis. It's not a good thing. So I think we've established that. So I guess a definitive answer on the proper church size is if a church gets too big that it's unable to be led efficiently and scripturally by elders, then the church is too big. Now, what do you do with it? Do you shrink the church, or do you grow the leadership?
And in our day and time, a lot of times members are driving several miles to be a part of a congregation. So I guess in such a scenario where it outgrows the leadership or whatever you just said there, where the eldership can't effectively lead everybody, then maybe they could, like you said, plan another congregation. You've got folks driving 30, 40 miles because of that. And they could have a group that meets where they are and start, doing the work of the Lord in that area. The comment you made, Todd, earlier about Reading, that's interesting. I mean, like, probably most congregations, including myself, I've never been in a situation where we rented a place and only used it for a couple hours on Sunday, didn't have a dedicated physical space. There could be a few negative things that come with that, but there could be several positive things that come with that too. Mm-hmm. Only negative in my mind because I'm so used to having a dedicated building and space.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that church did consistently every single week was, and to use their phrase, they had tea and biscuits.
Yeah.
Which is hot tea and cookies.
Yep.
So they took time every single Lord's Day to have a more casual fellowship with one another.
Yeah.
Because they knew that was probably the only time that week that they were going to get to see one another.
Yeah.
And that was you talk about a diverse group, man. About half the people there weren't even from England. There were people from Mozambique, 2 or 3 different African nations. There was a girl there that my wife went to school with at Frieda Hardman.
Yeah.
And she was married to a Frenchman. Man, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But they really treasured and valued their time together every single week because they knew that was their time.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what we did at Riverview, and we have that eclectic group as well. Nigeria, Cameroon, Jamaica, Mexico, United States, Canada, and there's another now. And incidentally, some of our new converts, they've invited, like there's another woman coming, and I don't know where she's from. I've talked to her, but I didn't say, hey, what's your nation of origin? But she's got a little girl. Anyway, my point is, we changed from 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and then coming back at 5:30 model on Sunday. We start at 10 a.m. and we stop at anywhere between 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on when we get through. Mm-hmm. Ayo Kunle preaches on the last Sunday of a month. We have fellowship, and he might preach for an hour. Mm-hmm. My average sermon length, I get it within about 60 to 90 seconds of 45 minutes every week. And they don't care. They like that. And between the classes, we've got coffee, we've got snacks. The little kids, they take what's left of the Lord's Supper bread and they eat that for their snacks. They absolutely love it. We do all of our homemade. We do all of our Lord's Supper bread homemade.
So one of the temptations is it tastes real good, I guess. Ha ha.
It does taste real good.
I'm just teasing.
It does
Not
taste
a temptation.
real good. But the change there was a change in the dynamic of the congregation. Mm-hmm. And even though we're stacked in there like sardines, we're kind of there together. The kids run around during break time. We're able to fellowship with one another. And yeah, so what would happen if somebody gave us $10 million and we built a 100 by 100 building tomorrow? What would we lose? Would we lose the intimacy?
Some of it, the way it is right now, would be lost because it's not the exact same.
Exactly. That's the thing. A lot of folks, they see something they think is substandard or suboptimal, and so they want to tear it down with no thought whatsoever of what would go in its place.
I'm not sure if I've ever heard someone say, I grew up in a very large congregation, 500 to 1,000 members. I absolutely love it. I felt completely connected. I felt like all the members really knew each other well, like in a small setting, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And they were being genuine. They're not joking. I don't know that I've ever heard. There's probably somebody, but I've never heard anybody say that,
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, is that the way it really is? It must be.
Yeah. That's a good question. Have we forgotten how to fellowship? It's a real good question.
Mm-hmm.
Connie Barden says, a nearby congregation met for a year or more in members' homes. They now have a small building they are able to rent and are growing. Yeah. So there's all kinds of stories and stuff like that. I'm telling you, I'm with Todd. I would prefer a smaller congregation. But I think what the Greenfield Church of Christ taught me is that it's not really a smaller congregation per se that I prefer. I prefer somewhere where I am useful. In other words, make me feel like you need me. Well, the Greenfield Church of Christ, if I remember correctly, whenever we moved from Hornbeak to Greenfield, Luther Nesbitt led us around. Brent Arnold's a preacher. I met several good people. I think they were around 150 or so members. That was a huge congregation to me. Like, that was a big congregation. And I never felt like I got lost in the crowd. I felt like they immediately put me to work leading singing. Then, lo and behold, I was there a little bit, and they said, hey, it's time to pick Bible teachers. You said you would be a Bible teacher. How about you teach the young men on Sunday morning? And I used Robert R. Taylor's book about studies in the Gospel of John. And then, lo and behold, they're the ones that sent me to preaching school. So I don't know if they sent me to preaching school to get rid of me, or they sent me to preaching school because they saw something in me. But regardless, it was all about they wanted to make sure that I was being used up to my fullest potential. I think that congregation might be well served as being a 300 member congregation because of how fastidious might be the right word, and that the elders are in being among the flock and knowing the flock and putting the flock to use.
Hey, Tony, I'd like to read Terry Crooks's comment and then ask Todd a question, put him on the spot. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, advised him to delegate his work to others when he saw Moses was trying to handle everything alone. The number of elders required for a congregation depends on its size. I want to ask Todd, because Todd's got experience now of not only preaching locally, but serving as a shepherd in the congregation. Like, what are some thoughts, from the Bible and experience as far as how many elders does a congregation need? Like, how that goes right along with the proper church size, I think.
Yeah.
Like, when you're thinking about overseeing Burleson, right? That it's like, what's the main thing that comes to your mind? Like, do we have enough elders? And
well, I think a better example than Moses is actually in Acts 6, with the apostles and the situation with the Grecian widows. You need enough elders to make sure that all the work is being overseen. Not that the elders themselves are doing all the work, because the apostles said, it's not fit for us to leave the word and wait on tables.
Yeah.
And so, you need enough elders to make sure that the work that needs to be done is being done. It would be difficult at Burleson to I think get everything done with 2 elders. We have 4. We're already, from the day that we were all appointed in May of 21, we started looking for our replacements. Even though 3 of us are still in our 50s, we started looking for our replacements, or at least guys to work with us in the future. We've got our sights set on, about 3 guys that we think will be elders in the next 5 years. The Burleson Church, if we can keep growing, we'll be 100, and we'll have 6 elders. Of course, you never know who the Lord's going to drop in your lap, because when we started this process, there was a family there that, although it was a family that was not here, that is here now, and we think, and we just appointed him as a deacon, and we think that he's certainly going to be elder material at some point. We told him that, and so our our goal is however many men can serve as elders need to serve as elders, and however many men can serve as deacons need to serve as deacons, and we don't have a cap on that. So we're 4 elders. Right now we're 4 elders and 5 deacons. I anticipate, say in the next 3 to 5 years, that we'll probably be 6 elders and 7 or 8 deacons. Even after these guys that we have as deacons are graduated to elders. But we've got more than a handful of guys right now that we're trying to make into deacons, and so the number's hard to say. It's always if you're going to dig a ditch, the more people you have with a shovel, the easier it's going to be. And if you're going to serve as an elder, the more elders you can have, the easier it's going to be. And the more guys that you have serving as deacons, the easier it's going to be. So that's always been our approach. And we're doing more now as a congregation than we've ever done. A year or 2 ago, it would have been unthinkable if we would have had a deacon dedicated solely to lads to leaders. We got 2 different guys serving in 2 different areas of our youth, and so the answer is however many guys it takes to get the work done. In an efficient way. So that's just my perspective as a guy that's been at the same church for 28 years and has served as an elder for about 2.5 of those years. Man, I don't know what else to tell you other than that. You can't put your finger on a number. But we're trying to get more. We got 4 elders, but we want more. We got 5 deacons, we want more.
On your illustration about the ditch, if you had 10 people to dig it and you got done 10 times faster or whatever, you're like, great, that's so much better than just one. But if you have 20 and 10 are just sitting there and 10 are working, well, then it appears you don't need the extra 10. So I guess just kind of, like you said, as per the needs of the congregation.
It goes back to the qualifications for deacons as well, is that the guys that we want to serve in the future as deacons are guys that we're putting them to work now, because one of the qualifications is let these first also be proved, then let them serve as a deacon. And we're giving these guys work to do now, whether it be teaching Bible class or chaperoning youth activities or presenting the Wednesday night devotional. We're putting these guys to work. And let me. This might be a little bit off topic. I don't think it is, but when we determined to start adding deacons, we called every single man on the roll at Burleson who was married and had kids, regardless of their qualifications, going for any, because those are 2 pretty important ones. Those are not 2 that you're going to solve in a year, right? So,
No.
So we called every male member married with children, and we inquired to every single one of them, are you interested in serving as a deacon? So we're not asking if you want to serve right now. We're asking if you are interested in serving in the future. And if you're interested in serving in the future, we want you to know you will serve as a deacon provided you meet the qualifications. But we want you to know we want you to serve, and we'll help you develop yourself to serve. But now the onus is on you. Are you willing to, as Nehemiah said, are you willing to, put your neck and shoulder to the work and prove yourself? Because if you are, we'll appoint you. The only thing you back from serving as a deacon is you. And when we did that, man, we had 2 or 3 guys that, man, there's just like lighting a fire under them, because I preach on those things, and I know the guys are thinking, well, he's not talking to me. He's talking to so and so that's maybe teaching a Bible class, or he's talking to so and so that's had the youth devo at his house, and we wanted them to know, no, talking to you. If you want to serve, the only thing that's holding you back from serving is you.
Yeah.
And man, it was just like lighting a fire in some of those guys. And man, it's just been a blessing to watch them. Man, they in the last year, just to watch them grow, take on responsibility. Leadership in the worship, leadership in the work in various ways, and man, it's just an awesome thing to see as an elder and watch these guys grow. Man, it's just like man,
Amen. I need to come down there and check that out, man. That sounds encouraging. Next 3 to 5 years and all this kind of stuff. I need to come check it out.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
So before
if you want to preach here,
do what?
I'll just retire and let you preach here.
Yeah, right.
Well, don't tempt him.
No.
Ted Knight says,
you got too much going on.
Ted Knight says, I know that I am wrong, but I'm almost anti-building. We focus more on our building and spend more money on that than any other thing. I know that we must have buildings, but we need to go out or get out of them and reach for the lost. Yes, I'm in agreement with that. And I want to get this by Connie. That covers Todd up. Let me just read it here.
Good. That's a good look right there.
There you go. I think that sometimes too much money is spent on the buildings. We don't need a big, fancy, high cathedral ceiling and fancy pews. We need a comfortable building with some room for classrooms and maybe a room big enough for potluck. Yeah, look, whenever I was first married to LaBeth, incidentally, December 11th, if I got married in December 11th, 99, is it my 24th or 25th wedding anniversary coming up? 24th. So it's a 24th wedding anniversary coming up. Anyway, why did I say that? Yeah, whenever I was first married, I was building pole barns with my uncle. And in 1999, you could put up a 30 by 50 with 10-foot walls, with a window and a 3-foot walk door and a 12-foot sliding door, 412 pitch, galvanized metal for $64.99, $6,499. Now I dare say that'd be much more expensive today, but even if it's double, let's say you could put up a 30 by 50 with 10-foot walls for $20,000. Figure about $10,000 for your concrete and plumbing. I mean, for around $70,000, you could have a 30 by 50 with 10-foot walls, heated, cooled, insulated, plumbed with bathrooms, and that's 1,500 square feet. A lot of people can sit in folding chairs and listen to a man preach and sing songs and partake of the Lord's Supper in that building. A lot of people. And I'm thinking that probably as the years go by, and I don't mean many years, that's probably what's going to happen is we're going to draw on this boy's experience, and we're going to thinking about doing that here at Riverview and we're going to use what we're meeting in now for the classrooms and stuff like that. But you don't need those big fancy buildings. You could build something just like what I'm talking about. And we have within our budget and our grasp now the ability to do something like that. So you can, if you're willing to settle down and not get so fancy, you can build a place that you can utilize that ticks all of the boxes.
I don't deviate down that too much, but yeah, I agree. I could say something that would split the church wide open.
Well, do it.
That's all right, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, right. That's what people probably think our show's for. They're just trying to split the church. Trying to impart some wisdom that I think is worthwhile here. Elders and otherwise ought to at least listen to what some of the women folk think about building a building. I've been in buildings, umpteen buildings that look like no woman had a word of input in it because it's the most awkward place I've ever been. Women tend to have some, good insight in this stuff. And if I think as we as teachers of God's word can help elders also understand that they can listen to input from women, and then the elders can huddle and make the best decision for the congregation. That's not ladies, women leading the church. You know?
Yeah.
But buildings, I mean, make them practical and useful and accessible. And, there's just so many things. You want it to be very, very usable and convenient.
Well,
doesn't need to be elaborate. Like
a woman can take a 30 by 50 pole barn that's finished on the inside, and she can doll it up and make it one of the most inviting. A woman turns a house into a woman turns a house into a home.
Yeah.
You've seen the meme running around Facebook with the apartment building. It's bare walls. It's a 72-inch plasma TV, a PlayStation 5, and a folding chair. And like men be making $150,000 a year and live like this.
Yeah.
Todd, you got cut off. You got something weird going on your audio, but ain't nothing you can do about it. It's a noise gate or something that Restream slapped on you because you're on a mobile device. But you did get cut off there, and usually it would let you come through. Do you remember what you said?
Oh, I didn't say anything. I'm just laughing.
Got you. Well, I couldn't tell, and like I said, it's a weird noise gate. All right, let's incidentally, John Exum's got some good questions. How can preachers help the elders in the congregation in their work or facilitate the work? And I mean, Todd, you've been on both sides of it. I'll give my 2 cents. I think that more preachers need to be elders. I think I just do. And that's about all I got to say about that. Mm-hmm. If you have your preacher, if he's there long enough to be known among the congregation, to meet all the criteria, the prerequisites placed on him by the scriptures, I really think you should look at that man being an elder as well. He has an important job, but that's an opinion. But Todd, you've been on both sides of it. Aaron, you can chime in. What do you think? What do you think? A good way preachers can help the elders in the congregation in the work.
No, I called you, Todd. I said, you go ahead. What you got?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's I think for the most part, it's been a good thing for the Burleson Church for me to serve, but not just because it was me, but because of the group that was appointed all at the same time. I'll just tell you, it's not for everybody. Listen, man, I know some great preachers that have never, as far as I know, never desired. Vance Hutton's been the preacher at Double Springs for about 38 years. There ain't nobody in this part of the world that is held in higher regard than Vance Hutton. And as far as I know, I don't think Vance has ever had a desire to serve as an elder. Andy Kaiser, another guy in our area, preaches up north of Florence at Zip City at Salem. Almost 20 years at 9th Avenue. I don't think Andy's ever desired to serve as an elder. Mark, the joke that I've made recently is that Mark Posey took the pulpit at Winfield after James Wires was there for about 40 years, and James had still serves as an elder, but served as an elder for a long time when he was the preacher. And I think it served the church well. And the joke that I made was Mark had been the preacher there for about 2 weeks, and they made him an elder, and which I'll be weeks, but it wasn't 26 years, like it was for me. But
right.
Mark has had a long tenure out at Austinville. Certainly got the temperament for it. He's in a lot of ways he's a lot like James, and so those guys are going to work well together. But Mark rolled right in and was appointed as an elder in a very short period of time. And I'm not saying that critically. I'm just saying that it's not for everybody. Speaking from experience, man, it's hard to wear 2 hats. I think there's a danger, especially when a guy's been a place as long as I have, that even before I became an elder, a lot of the elders' work fell on me. You know, all the calls, all the questions, everything fell on me. And now that I'm an elder, it's like now I don't have an excuse to send somebody somewhere else. It's like I don't get to say anymore, "Hey, I'm not an elder." That's a question you need to you need to call one of the elders, and so now I don't have that as an excuse anymore. But it's I'll just tell you, man. Even um, uh, I've lost, man. I can't tell you how much sleep I've lost since I became an elder. Um, a lot more than even just when I was a preacher, and it doesn't have anything to do with how much I love the church, but I think I probably love the church more now than I did even 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not. I know a lot of guys that serve as preachers and elders, and I know a lot of great guys that have had no desire. And like I said, it ain't for everybody. So, if a man desires the office, he desires a good work. A lot of good guys don't desire it. And,
Well, I've done a deep dive of that phrase, and that Greek term is in the etymological history of origami, the English word origami. I don't know, origami is a Japanese art of paper folding. I'm not, just trust me, they're in the same family. And looking at that word, we use the word desire, like, well, my coffee is almost empty, and when it's gone, I'm going to desire more, meaning I would like to have more. It's a desire. In this context, Paul's not saying if a man desires the work of a bishop, he desires good work. It's carries with it the nuance, the idea of I have a goal in mind, and I know that I need to make certain changes, and I need to stretch forth and reach toward that goal in order to be able to grasp that goal or achieve that goal. The idea is that every man in the Lord's church should see this high standard and change themselves into it. Now, whether they accept the role or not, it's a different story. There might not be a need. They might be at a congregation that is blessed with a multiplicity of men who are qualified otherwise to serve. But I think, for lack of a better way of explaining it, I think we let people off the hook a lot of times because we say, well, if you don't want to do it, then you've already missed the first prerequisite for being an elder.
I don't think that's the first qualification, like a lot of people say that it is.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to shoehorn a man in the office that absolutely doesn't want it.
Right.
But that idea,
what if you end up with a group of people and all the men, you got 50 men that I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. 50 no's. I don't want it. I don't desire it. It's like, well, what do you do? Do you then say, well, wait a minute.
Get John D. Berry to come in there.
Wait a minute. The Holy Spirit says that the church is lacking, is destitute when it doesn't have this. Titus 1:5. So at least two of you's got to step up. We got to start this. Like, you can't just, I don't desire it. I missed the first qualification. I don't desire it. Again,
I'm looking at, I'm looking down. I'm looking at a couple of commentaries and looking at some like some of the words like Tony said, and yeah, he is right about origami. By the way, I'd never heard that illustration, but it is correct. But when we lost our eldership in 2021 for a while, and two of our deacons needed to step up and serve as elders. They needed to, and one of them's my best friend I got in this world, and one of my best friends, family, spending time outside of the church, eat together, run together, travel together, vacation together, And I kept talking to him, and he just kept saying, "I don't make the first qualification. I don't desire it."
Yeah.
And I was not a part. And I was never a part of the meetings that took place when we lost our eldership. I taught on it, taught classes, preached on it, took Sunday night live time. Offered up a lot of solutions, potential solutions for the church. But one of our younger deacons, man, he just put I don't know how to say, he put the hard sell on two of those guys. And it's like, in a way, and this sounds bad, but in a way, he kind of shamed them.
I think it's good.
And what I mean by that is, he's like, this church needs elders, and you guys are qualified. And if you're qualified, you need to serve. And
Amen.
Young guy, man, he put it on him. Like, look, and I'm only getting this secondhand because, like I said, I didn't sit in any of the meetings with regard to appointing elders, not one, because I didn't want people to think that that I was running those meetings. And man, he put it on him. And finally, asked one of them. Well, actually, one of them asked the other and said, and he didn't want it either. He said, "Well, what's it going to take for you to serve?" And he said, "If you'll serve." And he said, "Okay." And then the matter was handled. It was done. So we went from, we went in one meeting from having 0 elders to they called me in that night and said, here's the conclusion, 4 elders. But I had two guys that they didn't aspire to be elders, and that's what the word there is. If a man aspires to be an elder,
yeah, he's got a goal in mind. He's grooming himself and being groomed by others.
Yeah. So could we say it means that, if a man is grooming himself for the position of an overseer, he's desiring a good work.
Yeah. And those guys have been preparing themselves for years. They just didn't know it.
Yep.
I mean, and so this idea that that a man can't serve unless he absolutely desires it is just not. It's not what the Bible teaches in that verse.
No, you do it out of a sense of duty.
Yeah, if you can, you should.
Yeah, if you can, you should. That I believe. That's the thrust of that word that Paul uses, orgomai.
Yeah, I mean,
if you can, you should.
Who wants to go the judge being qualified to serve as an elder or deacon, and give some sorry, lame excuse to the Lord as to why you didn't serve? Well, I didn't.
Sometimes when someone says or thinks, "I don't desire it," it's coupled with a misunderstanding of the work of an elder or an eldership.
Aaron,
I don't desire. It's too hard. It's too much responsibility. It's too, and I'm just going to throw something. I guess, get it off my chest. Back to the question that John asked, how can teachers and preachers help, elders in the congregation facilitate the work? I'm thinking, obviously the main thing of a teacher, an evangelist, is to instruct, to pay attention to himself, to walk right in the sight of God, and to teach other people the word, those that'll hear you. So it's like, that's a challenging thing for some people, for like some evangelists, but his job is to also instruct the elders. So he has to do that with patience and tenderness and humility, but also seriously and soberly. Like, guys, this is on y'all. Like, y'all got to take this up. Mm-hmm. Like, people are coming to me. This is y'all. It's not because I don't want to help. It's y'all are the shepherds, not me. I'm the evangelist. Y'all can do it. Y'all know the Bible. They love, and I've had similar talks to my elders here, like just not because they were doing anything just outright wrong, but just like trying to encourage them. Like, the people here love y'all. They respect y'all. And I've told them before, like, use that. Not because they're doing a terrible job, but because I think that's part of my job. That's part of my job, is to teach them and move them. Like, y'all can do this. Y'all know the Bible. You're qualified. The people love you. Use that influence. That influence goes a long way. And I made the comment about sometimes people think it's too hard. every work when has its challenges is hard, including teaching, preaching, Bible classes, parenting, and same way with elder work. But like at least elders have the eldership. They
That's
have each other. That's
It's
and
not you. It's us.
exactly,
It's a group.
exactly. In my judgment, it's probably the case that a lot of elders individually don't lay hold of that like they could and like they should. Like you've got an evangelist is like kind of by himself,
He's
kind of.
an island, man.
He's like this weirdo that's like bubbling. He's babbling the Bible all the time. Like, and he has to find somebody in the congregation that understands him at least that much. Like
the evangelist's job is to take heed unto himself and unto the doctrine.
Yeah.
The elder's job is to take heed unto themselves and unto the flock.
That's right.
And that's one of our teachers, Aaron. I don't know if he come up with this or he's heard somebody smarter than him say it. One of the issues with church organization, with congregational organization, is you have preachers that do the job of elders. Elders do the job of deacons. Deacons don't know what to do because nobody's ever told them. And the members are scattered because they have no actual leadership.
Yep.
And when you get to a situation like that, your congregation is too big. And I don't think it's the congregation that's too big. It's the leadership is too small or inadequate to the task.
So you've mentioned it multiple times. So does the eldership need to grow? Maybe in knowledge, but also in number. They need more elders to add, to handle the work.
I just shared, Todd, I put it. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to say a lot of our brethren make it too hard to serve as an elder.
Yes.
I mean, their idea of blameless or, they're first of all, I think they don't understand some of the actual qualifications themselves.
Yep.
And they make it, and a lot of guys won't serve because they're gonna take the most strictest view of every single thing, even if it's not correct, and they say, "But I'm not qualified."
Yep.
I'm qualified, and the people will. I just say it, man. A lot of our anti-brethren don't have elders because they don't want elders.
Right.
They're gonna make the qualifications so impossibly difficult, so as to do an end around on ever having elders. They're never going to have elders because they're going to make the qualifications so difficult, and they do that intentionally. But I think some of our brethren unintentionally make it too difficult because they haven't studied it. I think some of our people think they've studied the qualifications.
They've studied 2 qualifications. Husband of one wife and believe in children.
And not even got it right.
And they're wrong on the second one. So
I don't believe an elder has to have children that have been baptized into Christ in order to be an elder.
That's exactly right. That text doesn't teach that in any shape, form, or fashion.
I believe right now I am qualified to be an elder. No, never mind. I have both of my children are baptized into Christ.
I believe that too, Tony, but I think you're on the wrong track.
I am. Strike that, reverse it, forget I said it, edit it out.
All right.
I was thinking about somebody.
Right there. I don't know if you guys see the same thing that I see, but you see that dude in that funky shirt that I'm pointing at right there?
Aaron J. Dodson?
That dude right there. Qualified.
Yeah, he's qualified to be an elder.
Qualified.
More so than many men that I know who are currently serving as an elder.
But the believing children argument has been, dude, don't get me started. We've already been at this hour.
We need an episode on that. I'm serious. I'd like to.
If you want to do another episode on the qualifications for elders and some of the, for lack of a better term, the more sticky ones, call me.
You want to go? I want to go. Because I think that the people up here in Riverview need it. And then the reason I used me is because I default to me so much that I think I come across as a little bit self-absorbed. But the only reason I do it, folks, is because I know that I can't make me so mad at me that I'll never talk to myself again.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Next Tuesday?
You want to do next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
We can
Hang
wrap a
on,
gavel.
hang on. That may be the Tuesday I'm gone. Hang on, let me check.
Oh, no, you got to be there.
I think I'll be here. I think I can. I'll double check. We're coming to Sweet Home, Alabama Wednesday. Go see my folks. So
All right, so you can do next Tuesday with Todd.
I think I can. Let me double check with the boss. That would be Molly.
Yeah. So Connie, I'm gonna. You were such a longtime friend of the show, and you've been with us through thick and thin. So I'm gonna put you on blast, but in the most loving way. This is what we're going to be talking about next week. Yes, you do. So I said, I do not believe for one instance, for 1 minute, that in order to be an elder, you have to have children who are baptized into Christ. Yeah. And of course, Connie said, yes, you do, because it says believing children. Well, we'll talk about that next week. Do what, Todd?
I'll be ready.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to hear both of you.
Do you still have... Hold on just a second there. Do you still have that little Behringer microphone that you use for your Mevo and stuff?
Yeah.
Do you have a way to plug that thing into the iPhone? That may help you. Because I think some of what you're saying is getting cut out because of the fact that you're on an iPhone. It just sounds, it doesn't sound bad. It's good enough. And if this is all we've got for next week, it's adequate, I promise.
Look, I told you I only use the iPhone because that Asus laptop I have sounds like a 747 taking off.
Gotcha.
But I can plug. I've got a headset, kind of like Aaron's got. I've got a headset that's got a built-in mic. I don't mind wearing it. I just thought this would be the easiest way for me to do it. But
definitely, and it worked. I mean, no complaints whatsoever. I hate drawing so much attention to it because it's not that big a deal. But if there was a way that you could have like an external mic,
we'll just run off the laptop. But that Behringer mic is is a USB. And
yeah,
you can try it.
I don't know if I can put it on a lightning adapter and plug it into my phone. I don't know.
Totally understand. Well, next week we'll go with your laptop, and if your laptop the fan cuts on, trust me, it'll be fine. The fact that you have an external microphone will make up for that.
We can get on here, but before we go live too, you can test it out or something.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah. All right. So I've been trying to no avail. I cannot find where I wrote the articles on Substack. I want to share the links, but I just dropped them in Todd Clippard's Apple Messages, a PDF with both articles, where I talk about a religiously and spiritually codependent congregation. And there's two articles. There's one, heeding the call, about he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. The phrase, he that hath ears to hear, let him hear, when I really meditated on that and figured out, this is what Jesus is saying, it absolutely changed my approach to ministry. And I wrote an article about it, and I explained why. And LaBeth, whenever she read it, to make sure I had everything, my I's dotted, my T's crossed, she said, what you have done is you have written an article that if people followed it, it would keep a congregation from becoming a religiously and spiritually codependent congregation, which is very unhealthy. And so then I wrote an article explaining that just a little bit. So Todd, both of those are in your, so I'd love for you to look at them, but I wanted to share it on.
I really like the he that has ear to ear, he that has ears to hear article. I like that. It's good.
Yeah. And it resonated a lot with the audience. And we've put out so many articles, and I can't remember how I tagged it, so I can't find it. And if I wasn't looking for it on a live stream, it'd be right there.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Ted Knight says, am I reading that comment right? That to be qualified to be a preacher, you must be tech savvy? I don't know whose comment that you're reading, but
yes,
surely they're being humorous.
Right.
Yeah, right here. Hey, Alabama. To be qualified to be a preacher, you must be tech savvy.
You have to be able to use PowerPoint in your sermons, because if you don't, you're not going to be effective. That's
yes. Yes.
They
Yeah,
spend
she was
hours
kidding.
on them
Folks were
PowerPoints.
kidding, obviously. Yeah, listen, I know some of my brethren who preach a gospel that they couldn't preach if the power went out, which is ironic because the power points. Anyway, so listen, we're not going to get to the article that I wrote about the church size. I'll just release it on Substack and y'all get it tomorrow morning. But it seems like what we have discussed here, that it's not the size of the congregation, it's the quality of the leadership. The only thing that really caps the size of a congregation is the ability for its leadership to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Cool beans. All right. Jonathan Exum with his dad jokes. You know where you can go have ears, but they can't hear you. No response. The cornfield.
There's a lot of comments. Like I would like to just, keep going, but I mean.
Well, I hate to hold Todd up that long.
I know. It's just practical stuff too. I mean, like John's comment, I'd like to be an elder one day. I'm only 27, but if I have the opportunity, and I hope that he gets that opportunity one day, that there's not members that try to squash that. And we just current elders and current teachers and preachers need to be encouraging young men. Like, it's like, you can do it. You can reach it.
Yeah. We got a guy in the comment section, is Michael, and I really appreciate his comments. Todd will cover you up a little bit. Those of the true church live for God and things eternal and not for their own cares or lust. Many who call themselves a Christian live for themselves and not for God. They're not true Christians. I can co-sign that, but what I cannot co-sign, Michael, is this: the epistle of Barnabas, Clement, Ignatius, Polycarp, Hermas, and much more. I don't know from where that comes. I know I'm familiar with those works, but they are not canonical for sure. I'm sure that, well, I mean, at least in the, hold on, wrong. Where'd we go? I know at least in the, from Ignatius, Polycarp, the Shepherd of Hermas is a really good document. The letter from the Shepherd of Hermas. In fact, when you study the patriarch, the church fathers, so-called, and you look at how many times in the patristic writings the Holy Spirit is mentioned, you can't come away from anything other that they believed at the time that the indwelling of the Holy Spirit and the work of the Holy Spirit was done through the Word. And when you read the Shepherd of Hermas, it's very interesting, but without that context, the Shepherd of Hermas comes off as an absolute nut.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what his thoughts there were on those particular writings. Was he saying that those are canonical books, or that they're helpful to study? I don't know. There wasn't. I have
no clue. I just wanted to.
Yeah, you might, if you want to. Michael,
I just wanted to talk about it just a little bit so folks would understand. And John Exum says Headed to the Office by Glenn Colley is a good book.
I've never read it, but I've wanted to. It's one of those deals. But I've heard it's helpful.
Hey, Alabama says we had an elder once that was 35. He was a good one too. Yeah, we've got a guy here at Riverview who him and his wife are both, they would be very good, an elder and an elder's wife. And he just doesn't have, his children aren't old enough to have obeyed the gospel yet. So I don't know what I need to do about that. I don't know how much if I need to broach that subject and do a little teaching on it, or if I just need to let it lie.
Still a matter. Hey, listen, man, that's still a matter of conscience. I would never encourage a guy to serve if it would, if he came to the conclusion that he could serve, just by the basis of study.
Yeah.
Obviously that's a good thing, but I wouldn't want a guy to ever violate his conscience if.
Well, with this situation up here, it wouldn't be him. It would be the church as a whole.
Right.
I mean, because if the church as a whole was dead set against it, you cannot make that man an elder.
Oh,
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I mean, we've been through so much in the last, well, we haven't really been through so much in the last 2 years, but we went through a huge tumultuous ordeal 2 years ago, and we're building back from now. We're in a healthy place. We're not religiously or spiritually codependent. And now we're sticky. People come to see us and they stay. And I don't really want to rock that boat just yet.
Yep.
Pour a little cement on the foundation. Todd, what age should elders be?
Well, I mean, he need, again, this look, at 30, at 35, I wouldn't mentally, people are different, man. I know guys, to use the term, old soul, guys that have an old, maybe in their 30s, but if you were to talk to them and you didn't know, you might think they were in their 50s or their 60s. And I'm just going to tell you, man, when I was 35, I was not an old soul. I wouldn't fit to serve at 35, and just to be honest, probably not fit to serve at 45. Maybe for me personally, but I know, like I said, I know guys that are old souls that, could be in their late 30s, mid to late 30s, and, guys that, obviously, have a long-standing history with the church, good Bible student, good families, that could do that work in their mid to late 30s. I mean, I was a father at 24, something like that. 23. I guess my daughter. I wasn't hardly 24 yet. So
yeah.
Guy becomes a father, say like I did at 23. When he's 36, his kid's teenager, and you've got a track record of or a pattern of maintaining your household. By the time you're in your late 30s, and I certainly wouldn't have been a novice. Let's just say if I was an old soul and I had a kid, I'm 38 and I've got so I'm 38 and I've got two teenagers at age 38, and I'm an old soul and I've got a long-standing history with the church, and as a good Bible student, I'm qualified. All of the things being considered, but a lot of us were not old souls.
So it also depends culturally. I mean, I watch Timcast IRL. And Tim Poole always talks about this video that he watched of these kids back in the 1940s in England being interviewed about the going-ons of World War II. And he said, you could close your eyes and the words come out of these kids' mouth and how they were articulating these ideas and communicating, they sounded like, people today in their 30s and 40s. And it's because of the life they led. They'd been working, they'd been dealing with adults their whole life. And it wasn't like the craziest thing that I've ever heard whenever we decided to homeschool our children is, well, you don't you know that you have to socialize your children? And they held up the public school system as the standard of socialization. I mean, no, that's antisocial. That's dividing off into cliques where you only have interactions with people like you. You want to socialize. Like if you socialize a dog, like a puppy, you put him in different situations with interacting with different things.
Yeah,
so if you want to socialize.
When and how did the government operated schools become the norm for socialization? Like when you put it that way, it's like, I don't.
Evidently, somewhere between 85 and 92. But anyway, my point being is the maturity of children. Well, my mother married my father. My dad was 17. My mother was 15. I could not imagine the 15-year-old girls I know now marrying and then just less than a year later having children. They're not mature enough.
Yeah.
But then you may get some that are, and that's the children that's what, again, they turn 18, they get married, and they are married for 60 years to their spouse. So yeah, the age of an elder is, he needs to be old enough to have some maturity. He can't be a novice. And what age is that? Well, in 1940, it was probably a whole lot younger than it is in 2020.
Yeah.
Sometimes children are wise beyond their years, and we don't see it because they're children. They're good teachers if you'll listen.
Out of the mouth of babes, nursing
That's
infants.
right.
I read that in a book somewhere.
And Melissa Price, good to see you. All right. Or Missy? Melissa? Uh-oh. Anyway, Facebook user, Melissa, good to see you. All right. Todd, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, what's the proper size church? That's the proper church size. That was the original.
Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I am not rushing in.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
You know, you ain't got, and I'm not, look, the listener that brought this question, it comes from a good place.
I saw the letter. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And in fact, in the, see, that's where this funky sound did something. Say what you said, Todd.
I said it came from a good place. It was not a contentious letter.
No. In fact, he even said, I know that this is an issue of judgment or scruple. He prefers a small church as well.
Yeah. Hey, can we say that? I don't want a whole new can, but just a quick answer. Todd, Tony, like, is it bad or wrong? As long as I'm following God's word, I prefer to be around a smaller or a medium size. I mean, I think that could get selfish, like not focusing on the work. But let's say you're really focused on the work and you could work hard, and here's a congregation, 800 folks, and there's another one's got 130. And you're like, I can know my brethren better when there's 130. Like, is that bad for me to want to be with the 130 group? I'm not knocking the 800 group. They're practicing sound doctrine.
Right.
I don't think any preference that you have, as long as to carry out that preference, you are not committing sin. Yeah. I think any preference that you have is fine. Yeah. You know,
I always grew up in smaller congregations. It would be very weird to be in a very big one. It would.
Yeah. I will end with a note of praise for a very large congregation. And I haven't talked to anybody from there in several years, but I believe it's called the West End or something, Church of Christ in Knoxville. Mm-hmm. And they're right on the highway. They get all kinds of visitors. They have a good program. They have a thing in the auditorium for the members that you pick out your name tag and you wear a name tag. And every month, or every week rather, they were having a Meet the Shepherds, and every week on rotation, there was 2 of their shepherds that would come on a weekday night, but not Wednesday, and they would have coffee and some treats in the fellowship hall, and that's when you would come and you would meet the shepherds. You would voice any concerns, give any praises, do whatever you wanted to do, and have conversation with the shepherds. And I was talking to one of them while I was there. I attended the lectureships while Carnes Church building was being remodeled, and I believe his last name was Waters, because I remember he joked about Muddy Waters. But I talked to him, Todd, Aaron, for like 2 hours, because I was like, "This is cool. Like, what are y'all doing?" And he said the thing that you've got to do is communication and transparency is the key. If you don't have communication and transparency with the members, you don't have a congregation. And then number 2, you have to have more stuff going on that's not Sunday and Wednesday than any one member of the congregation could attend 100% of. So you had to be very, very active with a crowd that big. And I think at the time they had somewhere between 500 and 600 members.
I like to hear true accounts of larger congregations that from the pulpit, the whole truth can be taught and elders are striving to practice the truth. I mean, that's like, because I just kind of grew up hearing negative things about bigger congregations. Yeah. And sadly, often bigger congregations seem to be the ones that just slack on doctrine. They're good at practicing certain doctrines, like in lifestyle, in personal lifestyle, but the whole truth isn't taught from the pulpit. You won't hear, of church discipline when necessary or whatever, things like that, because they let, marriage, divorce, and remarriage. You may not hear the whole truth on that because you got a segment of 40 or 50 members that are living in adultery and you don't want to quote unquote run them off. But when you hear of a congregation that's bigger, it's like, tell me about it. I like to hear about it. Like, I feel like the Lord's work is succeeding when it's a little bit bigger congregation. So I just want to say that because I grew up with a smaller congregation, still in one that's kind of smaller to medium size. And I'm used to that. And I kind of prefer it, but I love hearing true story accounts of bigger congregations that are doing what's right. It's very encouraging. We seem far and few between. So tell me about them. I want to hear about them,
Absolutely. All right. We had an hour and 21 minutes and I meant to stop 20 minutes ago. I will, before we do our closing ceremonies, Todd, you have the last word, brother.
Looking forward to next week.
Awesome. Terry Crook says, has anyone ever visited the congregation in New York City or plan to? I don't plan to, and I've never visited, but if there's a congregation in New York City, which evidently there is, I'd like to go check them out. And Rusty Kirby says, from my view, people feel overlooked even in a church of 250 to 280. Terry, they absolutely can. And I think that's one thing that the West End elders were so very adamant about, that you have to be active in the congregation as an elder so these people don't feel overlooked. All right. We're going to hear a word from our sponsor as we close. Contact Lindsay Faye Dodson at lindsayfaydodson@gmail.com. Are you part of a church congregation or any organization seeking effective ways to spread the word about your event? Look no further. Lindsay Dodson specializes in designing modern advertisements for churches or any organization she sees fit. Whether it's flyers, postcards, or social media graphics, Lindsay has got you covered. Reach out through a private message on Facebook or, and this is the preferred method, send an email to lindsayfaydodson@gmail.com for more details. Don't miss this opportunity to make your message resonate far and wide. Contact Lindsay Faye Dodson today, lindsayfaydodson@gmail.com. Also, we want to give you the opportunity. This is only because we've been asked. There's a tip jar. You can tip the Christianity Now podcast platform, www.nearchurches@gmail.com. This goes directly to me and Aaron. We were just talking this morning. Aaron needs a couple of pieces of equipment to finish out his studio down there in Arkansas, and we would like to start having more guests. So between advertisement, between an honorarium for our guest, which poor old Todd's not going to get one because we ain't got no money, and between some equipment that Aaron would need, we have a need of a few $100s. You're already, some of you already take advantage of this. Some of you already do the buymeacoffee.com/Christianity Now. Some of you already do the patreon.com/Christianity Now. We're so thankful. And the best way to support us is to go to Substack and subscribe to our Substack and do the $5 a month model or do the $50 a year. That's how you can support us. Thank you so much. Scott Beck can attest that Lindsay does a great job. He has used her. And that's all we've got. We've given Todd the last word. And Aaron, unless you've got anything, we're going to sign off.
No, that's it. Just keep in mind, I appreciate all the supporters and those that support. You're supporting us as podcasters, not local preachers. We've got support locally, and we're thankful for that. So
that's it.
When you support us, you're supporting us as podcasters to teach online as we have opportunity. So,
all right. God bless everyone. Be sure and subscribe on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio to Cogitations. This is going to be archived on that channel and be the algorithm for us. Share this on your social media platforms. God bless you, and we'll catch you next week when we talk about the qualification of elders. We'll catch you on the flip side.